under here, and you want to be able to have the person, I'm going to have you scoot closer to me if you can. Oh, there you go. How are you today?
Good.
Dr. Huddleston, this cushion is just for comfort, right? So it's nothing to do with it.
Right.
Okay.
I'm trying to model good behavior versus all the other things. I can just do one thing, right?
There you go.
Okay, so we would want to have a towel roll under his elbow so that if he has any hyperextension at all, it would allow him to do that. If instead I had his arm on the table like this, everything gets kind of wonky. Okay, so you want to have that upper arm supported a little bit more. Okay. So again, so let's measure elbow flexion. So let me just bring it up. Okay, so for some people it's a soft tissue approximation, and for Mark it's very tight. So for him it's going to be capsular. Okay, but that is one time when it might be soft tissue approximation. So he is, for elbow motions, it's tricky. So if he can get into the anatomical position, which he's in now, that's going to be our 0 position or our starting position. So we're going to use the acromion as our landmark for our axis for the stationary arm. We're going to use the radial styloid process for our landmark for our moving arm. And we're going to be essentially at the elbow crease for the axis. Okay? Your notes might say lateral epicondyle, but something like that. So we're going to come up. Okay, oops. Okay, and go ahead and relax for me. So he is at 0 to 137. Okay, and our norm is 0 to 140. So good job. Way to be normal.
When you say tight, does that mean like his triceps are tight, or like what's tight that's restricting his?
So for him, it's his capsule. So it's that synovial lining around his joint.
Okay, in the elbow joint.
In the elbow joint.
Oh,
so
okay.
So in his humeroradial joint, humeroulnar joint.
I see.
Because when I'm here, if it were that he had tight triceps, I would be feeling resistance, 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 and then I just couldn't go any further. For Mark, I'm able to push pretty easily, and then I get to the end, and it's just like kunk, right? I mean, it's hard for me to decide if it's capsular or bony.
I see.
Because it's such a kunk. But there's a little bit of a release when I come off.
So that's different than like the soft tissue, which would just be that his arm is hitting into his soft tissue.
Right.
Which is also happening, but you're getting the capsular end.
Right. I'm able to displace the soft tissue enough that I'm getting a different end feel. So if it were the soft tissues that were limiting him, it would feel like you were pushing on a sponge that just wouldn't go anymore. Okay. Now, so for this being capsular, if I bring him into extension and I test his end feel there, I have 0 resistance until it doesn't go anymore, and then when I apply an overpressure, there's no bounce back, okay, because that's bony. And so that is different. That feels very different than this end feel does.
So you're always assessing end feel with elbow flexion?
Always feeling end feel for any passive range of motion test I do.
Oh,
right? So anytime I'm doing passive, I'm always doing end feel.
Okay.
That's a part of that.
Is his wrist rotated in a particular direction?
So we want to be in anatomical position, so it should be full supination.
Okay, so it should be all the way up
Yep.
like this. Okay.
Yep. So now for extension, the goni is going to be lined up the exact same way. That's kind of a fun ring. So, there we go. So if I just look at Mark's arm, he has some hyperextension, right? Now normally, again, I would have him up here, but I'm just holding him there because I don't have towels. And I don't have my glasses on. It looks like it's at 2 degrees. Okay? Now, the goofiness of documentation of the elbow, and this is going to be the same for the knee. So remember that anatomical position is our 0 point, right? Extension of the elbow is going past anatomical position into this direction. So if I were going to draw this elbow hand, my next hand drawing will be better, I promise. So, and then here's our shoulder, right? So this would be Mark lines supine with his arm by the side. So this is anatomical position, and this is 0 degrees. If his arm goes this way, this is extension. And what I just measured in him was 0 to 2 degrees. Okay, with a bony end feel. This direction is going to be flexion. And I got 0 to 137 degrees with a capsular end feel. Right?
Why with extension is it?
I'm going to take this one, sorry. I don't have a pillow for you. I'm going to actually do it on this other side because he has a little more room on the table. You go this way. Thank you. So carrying angle is simply a passive test where you have the person's arm at their side and you're measuring the angle of the lower arm relative to the upper arm. Somebody can just go ahead and put their arm there. Men typically have a smaller carrying angle than women. This is going to be a particularly important number if you are looking at someone who has pitcher's elbow, so if they have a medial epicondylitis, because they may have that person might have excessive motion at the elbow, which is leading to increased risk of hurting themselves. So pitcher's elbow obviously is with a lot of throwing activities, not necessarily being a pitcher. So Mark is at 12 degrees. This single number, and it's measured in degrees. Okay, Mark, can you sit up for me?
Just make sure not to coach them through anything, otherwise it'll get messed up, right? Because they could try to be closer.
Oh, so it doesn't matter where their arm is relative to their body, because we're not measuring the position of the humerus relative to the torso. We're measuring the lower arm relative to the upper arm. So go ahead and lay back down for me. So we could put his arm up here, and we would still get 12 degrees. Because we're measuring this angle. Okay. So it's pretty hard for the patient to screw this one up. Okay. Because they're just laying there with their arm flat.
Okay. As long as that thing's like flexed.
Right. Or rotated at the shoulder. That would be the one risk, that if you got up here, you're starting to get some shoulder rotation that might influence that. But really just the arm comfortable at the side for the carrying angle. Okay. All right, and have you sit up for me facing me. So the last two goniometric measurements at the elbow, what other motion do we have besides flexion and extension? Supination and pronation. These, I don't know, give me fits, but they're actually not hard. You just have to remember where to put the goni. So I'm going to test your left arm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you just hold your elbow in at your side. And then I'm going to have you make a fist for me. There you go. And it can be a loose fist. You don't need to white knuckle it. So I'm feeling for end feel, okay? And I'm getting the capsular end feel at end range supination. Now, you're going to put the goniometer on the side of that. I will do it. You come up with the language that works for you. I think of it as the side that you're turning away from. Okay, so I'm going to put it on the inside for supination, and I'm going to put it on the outside for pronation because I'm turning away from the goni. Okay, so that's how I think of it. Now, for this test, the stationary arm is going to be straight up and down. The moving arm is going to be parallel to the forearm, just proximal to the wrist bones, and you have to be very careful that you're laying it across the forearm. If you get it too distal, it's going to be a mess, so you need to make sure that you're up a little ways, but it's going to be pretty subjective because it's not a flat surface, so you need to make sure that it's flat. Okay? So we're going to come here again. Now, I know that he can get here, so that's my 0. Okay? So I know that he has 0, and then we're going to come this way. Now, the axis for this one, it truly could not matter any less. Okay? For this one in particular. So we have him here. Now go ahead and relax for me. The reason I have the person tuck their elbow in at their side is because we don't want to get shoulder motion to compensate. Okay? So if you tuck it in at their side, that's less likely to happen and you'll get pure forearm motion. Okay, so I'm going to go back this way for me. So he's got great motion. I've got him at 88 degrees. Okay. Pronation's going to be the same. So I'm going to have you go the other way. Okay, tuck your elbow in for me. Cheater, relax. Okay, go ahead. So did you see? When I asked him to pronate, he did this right away. Just wanted me to have that teaching moment, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to come across here, and he's not a pronator. Go ahead and relax. So he's right at 70 degrees, 0 to 70 degrees. 0 to 80 is norm for both directions. Okay? So just remember that you have to change the side of the goni. Now, if we were measuring pronation and I had the goni here and I had him go this way, hopefully you would figure out that that probably isn't right. Okay? So I'm hoping that even if you put the goni on the wrong side first, as soon as you try to take the measurement, you'll see that, oh no, that isn't right. Okay? All right, so let's try those.